And now the GUI control is just about done for the sequencing engine. So we're going to take a look at that quick. So I'll get my simulated DAC application running. This will be throwing up some warnings. It is monitoring disk space and will be warning that it's above a limit. So I think that's, yeah, there we go. So I've got less than 120 gigabytes free, so it's warning me. So we can ignore that for now. It's doing what it's supposed to. But I've got my DAC application, control application running, and then what would be my GUI console application. And now I've got this new sequencing control at the bottom. So what this is displaying is the two sequences that I have locally on disk. So if I explore, there is configuration saying, hey, look in this folder and just list any of the sequences that are there. And so if we look at the DAC test VJSON and we look at the GUI, there is this sequencing config, and it says what folder to look in. This will be a folder relative to the folder containing this system configuration file, which lives one folder up from where these guys are. So here's that DAC test VJSON, and it's just saying, in this folder, go into the sequence folder, list all the sequences that are there. So it's doing that. Now, what I could do is load it to the test system. So it hasn't loaded in the GUI. The GUI isn't really responsible for doing any of the sequence execution. But the idea is that in your local copy of your test system configuration, presumably it's going to be versioned in Git or Subversion or something like that. You'd be pulling updates that other people are making and sharing to the other GUIs. So everybody's got their own local copy of the sequence files, and we can get them deployed to the test system. So this is going to deploy to that simulated DAC application. And based on the color chart, the color key at the bottom, we can see now it is loaded and a good CRC. So one of the things that this is constantly checking is what's loaded to the system match what you have locally. And then if there is a mismatch, you've got one of the colors that signifies something's a little out of whack. You talk with the other operators or anything like that and see if you need to update or they need to update, and you need to update deploy a sequence update to the test system. So these can just be unloaded and reloaded, and I can run it. However, there is a bug in this sequence. So it is currently configured to aim for 800 psi on this control. So I've just got some software variables running. And if I go above 800, it goes to this start state. So I had done some cleanup and got rid of a couple of intermediate transition states that was in the sequence file. There is no actual start state, and we can see that the heat didn't turn off. So I'm going to go ahead and abort this. Goes through the stop state, all the run times are now gone, and I'm going to edit this and fix this these mistakes. So instead of going to start, we're going to hold. I think in the last sequencing video, I had said I didn't have the entry and abort configuration working yet. So it was just hard-coded to go to a start state, but I've now got this configuration working, so we can go to a more meaningful state to start with. And so this is just basically 3 states, a nice little triangle state machine. There's hold, see if we go low, see if we go high, react accordingly, go to that correct state, either turn on cooling, turn on heating, to get the desired pressure in some kind of fluids bottle, gas bottle. And then they'll go in there, turn on the appropriate control, and then go back to hold once it's back at the target temperature, or target pressure in this case. And then there is an abort/stop case state, which just makes sure all controls are turned off and then actually stop the sequence from running. However, did I save it? I did not save it. Within a minute, we should see this change to yellow when it next checks the file. And I actually haven't checked to see that this does that properly. So this This might not actually work. So presumably, at some point, it's going to recheck the local files. It only rechecks once a minute, so this could actually take a bit of time. But it should find it because we've loaded this already. Let's see what the previous last modified was, what the new last modified is. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the minute elapsed. I could probably make it do that like once every 10 seconds. It's pretty quick. It loads the contents into memory, does the CRC32, extracts the name from it to update that if it needs to. But it does check that modified date. So now, even though it's loaded on the test system, it's loaded in the DAC application, the run button is no longer available. And that is because there's that CRC mismatch. So what is loaded on the system doesn't match what I have locally. So it will not let me run just to make sure I have better expectation of what will actually run if I were to hit run. So what I could do is I could just unload this and then reload it. And now it is back in a good state with the update. So let's go ahead and drop that pressure down. I'm going to run, goes into heat mode. If I get to 800, it goes into hold mode. I go above 850, it goes into cool mode. And so now it does all the proper transitions. You can see the state time resetting every time it changes what state it's in. The sequence, how long it's been running in total, when was it actually started. And then the idea is you could have a handful of sequences running in parallel to do some test system automation. For a rocket engine test stand, you do some GSE automations and conditioning, and then have your actual timed test sequence as a separate sequence that you can run while all the other stuff is still running. But I can go ahead and abort this. I really only have the one stop mechanism. I didn't want to have multiple ways to stop a sequence. I didn't want an abort path and a normal stop path. What I'm aiming for with this is that the sequence needs to stop for some reason, whether it's user operator intervention and it's a nominal stop, they just don't need it running anymore, or there was a problem. So far, all of the scenarios I've worked through, the same outcome is desired. So there is just, it's called abort. It's not necessarily a bad thing to abort. But I can go ahead and unload and load, and I'm not going to try and load this second one because I've made some changes and haven't updated that one, and it's not finished anyway. But yeah, so started up this time. It stayed in the hold state. So starting to get some decent feedback in the GUI. What's next, what'll come soon is you can click the name and get more details. So you'll get a pop-up will pop up, show you what the CRC is. If there was a sequence error, either detected locally or during a load, there was some parsing issue or some channel was specified that couldn't be found in the config, you'd be able to get that information in there, as well as there'll be a button to show the sequence file in File Explorer locally, just to make it easy to get to and update if you needed to make changes, all of that fun stuff. So I've got a couple more things to tidy up. Right now, the unload all and abort all buttons don't do anything. I didn't implement them, and they should get grayed out, disabled, hidden, whatever I end up deciding to do based on if there are any loaded, if there are any running. If there's nothing running, there's no sense in having the abort all button there. But yeah, so the idea is this should work across multiple consoles in parallel. It's got that CRC checking and feedback to make sure that the different consoles are in sync with the system configuration, are in sync with what's currently deployed to the test system. Everybody doesn't need to be in sync. It's just the person that does have the correct version of the sequence that they want to run would be the one that's able to load it and run it. And it would prevent other people from being able to run until they update their local configs. So yeah, curious what anybody thinks of this. But this is starting to become a really nice bit of test software. And thanks for watching.